Okay, this is my audience. My grandson, my great-granddaughter, and my son-in-law. In my younger years, we only had like 2 channels on our TV, and the theater in town played the same movie for 2 weeks, 3, maybe a month. And we had no computers or computer games. Am I hearing groanings yet? We didn't know any different, and we didn't care because we had the whole outside world to play in. But at night when we came in, we had to have a quiet time. We had to either play cards or do our homework or read a book or work on our hobbies. My hobby was embroidery. It was hard for me to believe that you could take a piece of material and some thread and paint a beautiful picture with it. My mother always wanted a girly girl, and I was pretty much a tomboy, so she encouraged me to do the embroidery. Now I'd like to tell you why I think that hand embroidery is becoming a lost art. Embroidery is considered the oldest art form. They've found examples from the 5th through the 3rd century BC. Back then, when they were mending their clothes or patching them, they realized that they could make pretty decorations using the thread and the stitches. The stitches are the same: the chain stitch, buttonhole stitch, a blanket stitch, satin stitch, and cross stitch. Those are the same ones that we use today. There have been no advancements or improvements in the technique or the materials. And the earlier works that were found were of such a high quality and standard that you don't see that anymore. In the medieval Islamic world, it was considered a high social status if you had embroidery. They even used gold and silver to make their thread. And they embroidered on everything: their boots, their hats, their nightgowns, whatever. Even on the horses' bridles and saddles, their belts. And they had all these little cottage industries that popped up around that hired 800 people just to keep up with the demand. And they had some work that was done in England that was called English work that was renowned throughout the whole of Europe. And all of the techniques were passed down from generation to generation. Then they decided to have machine embroidery. And it came about in stages. The first was a giant loom that the thread went through to make the cloth, and then the women stood and embroidered on it when it came out, which is a weird thing to call machine embroidery. Then they had punching machines. And you would put a piece of paper on the material, and then the machine would punch through the paper and the material with thread. Now they have machines, your one at home, you can use that. All you need is a special head to put on it, and you can do embroidery as much as you need to or want to. I don't embroider as much as I used to. I only make quilts for my great-grandchildren's now. And I'm going to have my son-in-law hold the camera so you can see these things. I'm going to show you a few examples. This is a picture, a set of 2 that I made for my mother 47 years ago. I thought it was 45 years ago, but my daughter informed me she's 47, and I made it when she was born. My mother had it hanging in her room all those years. Now I have them, and they're hanging in my room. They will go from me to my daughter and to probably her daughter, on down through our family. Something you could keep forever. And this is one of the quilt tops I'm making for my great-grandson. This is a little camel. Here's a little elephant. And these are all stitches that they used when they started out. And this one is a quilt that I made for my daughter. I got children's books and made these. This is Snow White and the 7 Dwarves. Here's the girl with the hair hanging down and the old witch. There's little Bo Peep. I tried to get as many as I could on here. It took me a year to do this. I worked on it after work and on weekends. There's the 3 little pigs. Anyway, if I hadn't done that by hand, I wouldn't have felt as much accomplishment as I did when I gave it to my daughter, and the pride I had in it, and still do. And she absolutely loves it because I made it for her by hand. And I realize that people are busy now. They don't have a lot of time to do things. They just as soon use a machine. But I don't feel that if something is not done by hand, it's not real embroidery. And here's my audience again.